So I hope devotees are able to see the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we will read both the shlokas, then I'll also read the synonyms and the purport, and then we will try to understand a little bit on that. Rishuvacha, and this is in the prose form. So I'll just read the words as they are. Na vai Maharaja Bhagavato Maya Guna Vibhuti Kashtham Manasa Vachasa Vadigantham Alam Vibhudhyayushapi Purushas Tasmat Pradhan Yenaiva Bhuloka Vishesham Nama Rupamana Lakshanato Vyakyashamaha. So that was verse 4. And the synonyms or the word-to-word meaning is like this. Rishyuvacha, that is Sri Sukadev Goswami continued to speak. Na, not. Why? Indeed. Maharaja, O great king. Bhagavataha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maya Guna Vibhutihi, of the transformation of the qualities of the material energy. Kashtham, the end. Manasa, by the mind. Vachasa, by words. Va, either. Adhigantam, to understand fully. Alam, capable. Vibuddha Ayusha, with a duration of life like that of Brahma. Api, even. Purushaha, a person. Tasmat, therefore. Pradhanyena, by a general description of the chief places. Eva, certainly. Bhu Goloka Vishesham, the particular description of Bhuloka. Nama Rupa, names and forms. Mana, measurements. Lakshanataha, according to symptoms. Vyakya Shamaha, I shall try to explain. So, the translation. The great Rishi Sukadeva Goswami said, My dear king, there is no limit to the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's material energy. This material world is a transformation of the material qualities, that is, Sattvaguna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. Yet no one could possibly explain it perfectly, even in a lifetime as long as that of Brahma. No one in the material world is perfect, and an imperfect person could not describe this material universe accurately, even after continued speculation. O king, I shall nevertheless try to explain to you the principal regions such as Bhuloka with their names, forms, measurements, and various symptoms. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The material world is only 1/4 of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's creation, but it is unlimited and impossible for anyone to know or describe. Even with the qualification of a life as long as that of Brahma, who lives for millions and millions of years, modern scientists and astronomers try to explain the cosmic situation and the vastness of space, and some of them believe that all the glittering stars are different suns. From Bhagavad Gita, however, we understand that all these stars, that is nakshatras, are like the moon. In that, they reflect the sunshine. They are not independent luminaries. Bhuloka is explained to be that portion of outer space through which the heat and light of the sun extend. Therefore, it is natural to conclude that this universe extends in space as far as we can see and encompasses the glittering stars. Srila Sukadeva Goswami admitted that to give full details of this expansive material universe would be impossible, but nevertheless, he wanted to give the king as much knowledge as he had received through the Parampara system. We should conclude that if one cannot comprehend the material expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one certainly cannot estimate the expansiveness of the spiritual world. The Brahma Samhita 5.33 confirms this. Advaitam achyutamanadimananta rupam adhyam purana purusham navayavvanam cha. The limits of the expansion of Govinda, the personality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot be estimated by anyone. Even a person as perfect as Brahma, not to speak of tiny scientists whose senses and instruments are all imperfect and who cannot give us information of even this one universe. We should therefore be satisfied with the information obtainable from Vedic sources as spoken by authorities like Sukadev Goswami. So that was the fourth verse. The fifth one is like this. Again, this is in prose. Yo vayam dvipaha kuvalaya kamala koshabhyantara kosho niyuta yojana vishalah samavartulo yatha pushkara patram. So the translation goes like this. I'll just skip the word to word. The planetary system known as Bhumandala resembles a lotus flower, and its 7 islands resemble the whirl of that flower. The length and breadth of the island, known as Jambudvipa, which is situated in the middle of the world, are 1 million yojanas, 8 million miles. Jambudvipa is round like the leaf of a lotus flower. Hare Krishna. So these are the 2 shlokas that we will try to look at today. So before we get started, Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Naum Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Krishna once again to all of you. I hope my voice is audible. So seeking the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis here. Kindly bless me so that the right words come at the right time in the right spirit. This is a very heavy topic with a lot of subtle points coming out, which we'll try to dwell upon now. I'll try to repeat what I've heard and read with respect to these 2 shlokas. And I'm doing this for the pleasure of the Lordships, as a service to the Guru Parampara, and for my own purification. Hare Krishna. So this particular verse actually, if you look at the chapter itself, it is titled, chapter 16 is called as a description of Jambudvipa. So Jambudvipa in the material world, there is a description that is going to go in. Why? Because the personality of Maharaj Priyavarta is being discussed and his descendants. And there is so much of description of how his chariot created a depression, and then the water got filled, and thereby the islands got created, and so on and so forth. And there are so much of descriptions of each of those, the length and breadth, and so on and so forth. So when this description was going on, and about Bhumandala, then what happens is, Parikshit Maharaj is actually asking. So he wants to hear more. And then he says, like, kindly tell me in detail how I wish to know of them in detail. Kindly fulfill my desire. So this is what he's saying. And then the reason that Parikshit Maharaj is giving is that when the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his external feature made of the material modes of nature, that is the gross universal form. So when the mind is fixed even on the gross universal form of the Lord, then it is brought to the platform of pure goodness. This is what it said in the 3rd verse. And then when it is brought on to the platform of pure goodness, then one can, in that transcendental position, then one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have heard Acharyas say that how one needs to move up from Rajogun to from Tamogun to Rajogun to Sattvagun, and then from there beyond to the platform of pure goodness or Shuddha Sattva. So one of the ways of doing that is by fixing the mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, upon Krishna. So here, little more description. And what is that fixing the mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead? On his external feature also, which is made of material modes, which is a gross universal form. So when one is fixed there, then we are in the position of, one gets to the position of pure goodness. And in that position, one can understand the personality of Godhead or Vasudeva. So this is how then Parikshit Maharaj is asking. Then he says, then based on this particular question, then Sukadeva Goswami begins to answer. And the beginning of the answer is this particular text that we are seeing. And then he goes on into the description. So here there are two things that we need to be aware of. We'll have to take note of. So firstly, Sukadeva Goswami is making a rider, he's giving a rider. He says that the material energy is also part and parcel of the Lord, Supreme Lord, that is Lord Krishna. But then the material energy, that the manifestation of the material energy cannot be explained by anybody perfectly. Even if somebody is given sufficient time. What is that sufficient time? Even the lifetime of Brahma is not enough to explain perfectly the material world as it is manifested. Why that is not so? Because everybody is having imperfection. Nobody is perfect in this material world. So nobody is qualified to explain, or they will not be able to, even if they are given time, which is equal to the lifetime of Brahma. Brahma's lifetime, is, we know, is like, it's a huge number. 411 trillion, 40 billion years. So, I mean, not just 1-2 years, but then that many years you give also, nothing happens. So even in Brahma Samhita, there's this verse, no? Panthastu koti shatavatsara sampragamyo vayuryata atapi manaso munipungavanam. So what does that mean? Panthastu koti shatavatsara, even for koti years, crores of years, somebody is traveling at the speed of mind. And not somebody, a learned person with some intelligence is traveling, still they will not be able to reach anywhere near the Lord, which means that they'll not be able to understand the Lord or his energies. So in this way, we see how great personality is. Brahma there in Brahma Samhita is admitting to it, that it is difficult to understand for the Lord with our own effort. And here, Sukadeva Goswami is also mirroring the same thing, where he is saying that it is not possible for anybody to describe the material world perfectly, because all of us are imperfect. But he continues to say, "O king, I shall nevertheless try to explain to you the principal regions such as Bhuloka with their names, forms, measurements, and various symptoms." So he says, "I'll make that effort." So that's the rider that he's saying before he gets on to explain. So now one thing is the greatness of the Lord is being highlighted here. And secondly, the inadequacies that exist in us is also being highlighted. So there are two aspects here. So one is how great the Lord is, and second one is how tiny or small we are. And we have imperfections. Now, if you recall, there are these 8.4 million species of life that are there. We know that. And in that 8.4 million species of life, the human form is the best. And why that is best? Because in the human form only, there exists a chance to think of Adhyatmika, to do devotional service, and then to reach or attain the lotus feet of the Lord. So, whereas on one side, we are seeing that the human form is the best. So, but then there are limitations. So this is the next thing. The limitations are the 4 defects that we are subjected to. So we need to understand that. It's like we have the best machine with us, if the body is a machine, yantra. But then it has its own limitations. So we need to know the limitations. So anything that we buy, we should know what it is capable of doing or what it is meant for. And at the same time, we should know what is its limitation. Like you buy a car, they say the same thing. Okay, it will go from this to this speed in this many seconds, and turning radius is so much, and all of those details. What all it can do gets highlighted. And then they'll also say that you cannot go beyond a certain speed. And then, so there is the speed limit that is fixed there. Okay, you can easily do 120 or 180 or whatever. You can't proceed beyond that. So what I'm trying to say is we need to know the limitations also. Then we will be able to make the best use of that particular machine. So in the same way, we need to be aware of the limitations of this body. And that is what Sukadev Goswami here is highlighting. So in that limitation is because of the 4 defects that we have. So what are these 4 defects that we have? So we know that we commit mistakes. So everybody makes mistakes in this material world. And then we also know, it is said that we are always in illusion, under Maya. We know that in the material world, we are under the influence of Maya or illusion. And then the third one is that our senses are imperfect. So, there are various examples that Prabhupada gives. You are so proud of your eyes, but if there is no light, then you cannot see anything. So there is a limitation to what we can see. And then there is a limitation to the color differentiation. So I might think it is green, somebody will say it is blue or purple or whatever. So all these, defects exist with our senses. We might hear something, but I thought it was something, somebody else will think it is something else. So there is a limitation there. It is not 100% dependable. So senses are imperfect. And then we can only see up to a certain range. And then we can only hear up to a certain range again. I think it's 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz or something like that. So anyway, so there are limitations there. Then the 4th defect is that we have this cheating propensity. Now, cheating propensity is because of the cover-up that we do. So why we cover up? Because we are in Maya, illusion, and our senses are imperfect. So we make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we cover it up by this cheating propensity. So we try to explain, then we try to justify, we try to, it appears in various forms, the cheating. So broadly, if we can understand how there is a limitation to this particular vehicle that we have. But this vehicle is important for us to understand Adhyatmika. But at the same time, it has its limitations. So that's the aspect that is coming out very clearly here. So now then Sukadeva Goswami is also saying, but still we need to hear, we need to understand. So the stress here is on the effort that one puts in, not on the result. It's not like, oh, anyway, I can't hear, so why bother only? Why try only? No. The perfection lies in trying. The perfection does not lie in the result, that is the end result, in the fact that whether I have understood or not. It lies in the fact that we'll have to try. Like, for example, now, in this material world, in this thing, I think the topmost personality is Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma, at the start, when he started off, then he wanted to understand the Lord. So, because he wanted to understand himself, then the Lord, and then what is his work, duty, all of that. So, from that perspective, then he sits to meditate, it is said. And then he sat and then he meditated. He meditated for many, many years. And then he understood, it is said. What did he understand? He understood that he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of God. So that is perfection, Prabhupada says. So when you understand that you cannot understand, that means you have achieved perfection. That means you realize your limitation and you also realize what is it that you want to understand is beyond. That is why it is called as inconceivable potency. We cannot conceive with our mind. Mind also is an extension of the senses. When we say imperfect senses, we should also include the mind, because the mind will play so many games based on the conclusions that we draw. Okay, so this is the truth with respect to ourselves, with respect to Lord Brahma. where even after so many years, then we don't understand. Then how does one understand the Lord? So we'll try to come to that a little later. But then we will have to go step by step. It just says here at the start that we need to hear. So if we have to hear, then we need, that's how then the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is there. There is so much of descriptions of the Lord. About, so if you look at it, the first 9 cantos are all about the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, about how great Krishna is. So that is why the Acharyas say, like, you go through the cantos of Bhagavatam from 1 to 9 before you get into the 10th canto. So what is this 10th canto all about? It talks about the sweetness of the Lord. So the sweetness, to understand the sweetness of the Lord, first we need to understand the greatness of the Lord. And understanding the greatness, again, we almost concluded saying that we cannot understand the Lord, but then we'll still have to try to understand. So our success lies in our effort. So I hope it's not very confusing, but that's how the logic is. If you look at all the essence of whatever each personality is trying to say. And then it is also said that we naturally get attracted to the greatness. So we will be able to develop love or attraction, or there is some connection that comes in when we hear about the greatness of a certain individual. The attraction could be, or the relationship or the connection could be positive or negative. So that is also handled in the Vedas, where it says that we'll have to think favorably about the Lord. There are people who got attracted to the greatness, but then in an unfavorable way. They wanted to surpass that. Envy was there. So it should not be in an unfavorable way, like Kamsa. So Kamsa was always wanting to kill the Lord. I mean, he was like so much of hatred, he was thinking of the Lord. So that is unfavorable way. So we'll have to think of the Lord in a favorable way and then get attracted to the greatness. Then it will help us to realize how great he is. And then when we realize that we are still not able to understand many things, then we realize how small we are. So in one sense, this is that Sambandha Jnana. So about who am I and who is Lord, and what is the relationship that I have with him. So that is how our spiritual journey also started. And it continues that way only, still trying to understand who am I, who is the Lord, and what is the relationship, what do I need to do. And we'll continue to do that. It will never get, it will never stop. So, but then what happens is, in spite of the limitation, we do that because we've been told to do that. So we just depend on the Shastras. And that is the next point that is being highlighted here. Sukadeva Goswami says, I will still try to say what I have read from the Shastra. That's what Prabhupada says in his purport. So where he is saying that, Sukadeva Goswami is saying, he is concluding that whatever I have knowledge, Srila Sukadeva Goswami admitted that to give full details of this expansive material universe would be impossible, but nevertheless he wanted to give the king as much knowledge as he has received through the Parampara system. So this is the approach. This is how it has to go. I don't know. I will not be able to explain, but still I'll try to explain. So that's the mood of trying to get into these details. Now, if you look at Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna is talking about himself. And then there again, Arjuna is asking, and then Krishna speaks. But actually, if you look at the 7th chapter, so in the 7th chapter, there is some descriptions about the Lord himself. So 7th chapter, actually, the Lord begins by saying, Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjun Madashrayah Asamshayam Samagham Mam Yatha Nyasyasi Churnum. So here it says that by practicing the yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, and there is no doubt about it. So Krishna says in the start of the 7th chapter that you can know me with your mind attached. And then he says, hardly anyone knows me in the subsequent verses, Manusyanam Sahasreshu. So he says that among many, many thousands, hardly anyone knows me in truth, is that conclusion of that particular verse. And then he begins to talk about how we should understand him or try to understand him. So he's giving some examples and tips. So he's saying that Bhumi Rapo Analo Vayu Kam Manabuddhi Revacha Ahankara iti yamme Bhinna Prakriti Rashtada. These are all my separated energies. So Krishna is actually talking about his energies. He's not talking about him directly. He's only referring to his energies and then how we can comprehend them. So why he's talking about his energies? Because we only have a first-hand experience of his energies. That's all. So that is how he begins. And then he talks about the Panchabhutas, and then how they are all separated energies of mind. And then he goes on in that particular chapter to say that besides this, there is another superior energy of mind, or Arjuna, which comprises of the living entities. That is all of you. And then who is exploiting these resources of the material nature, which is inferior in nature. So like this, he's bringing out the aspect of you are also part and parcel of me because you're coming from the superior energy of mind. So he's still talking about energy only. He's not talking about himself. And then he brings out the aspect of material and spiritual creations and the differences that exist there, because one is from the internal energy, the other one is the external energy. This is just for us to understand so that we are able to comprehend based on the limited faculties that we have, we are able to understand. And then he talks about our experiences. So then he talks about rasoham apsukaunteya. So that I am the taste in water, because taste in water is so satisfying for us. So Krishna is like that. Or actually, he's beyond that. But then for our understanding, it's like that. Prabhasmin Shashi Suryaha. So the light of the sun and the moon is the Lord. So because we are able to perceive the light and the light of the sun and the moon, so he says that is me. And I'm the sound in ether. I'm also the ability in man, he says. Then I'm also the fragrance of the earth, because we can smell the fragrance of the earth. Punya Gandha Prithvimcha. And then he says, I am the heat and the fire. And then if you look at all these verses, the translation, so I am the life of all that lives. I am the penances of the ascetics. So everything that we imagine, Bijam Mam Sarvabhutana. So I am the original seed of all existence. Buddhir Buddhimatam Asmi. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. I am Tejasvinam Aham. I am the prowess of all powerful men. Then Balam Balavatham Chaham. So I am the strength in the strong people. And of course, I am devoid of passion and desire. So like this, Krishna is talking about himself in many ways. And then he goes on to say that, however, deluded by the three modes, you people do not know me. Many of you don't know me. But this is how you can understand me. So both are running parallel. On one side, he's saying you don't know, but then he's also telling how you should know me. So it goes on. And then he says, who are the four types of people who come to me? Who are the four types of people who don't come to me? So why he is talking about that? That is just to bring attention to what is the mood that we need to develop if we have to get to the point of thinking of Krishna in a favorable way. So like this, Krishna talks about himself in the 7th chapter. And then he also says that to come to this point that I am everything. So in short, actually, he is everything. That is what Krishna is concluding. But then he says to come to that point of I am everything, Bahunam Janmanamante. So he says, Jnanavan Mam Prapadante, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Samahatma Sudurlabha. Very, very few people, or it takes a long time. You have to take many, many births to come to that point. So this way, Krishna is talking or giving information about himself. And then he says, like, only the intelligence people will get it, because men of small intelligence will not worship me, or they will not turn to me, but they will turn to the demigods because they want some tangible results for themselves. So they want Dhanam Dehi, to lead a life which is enjoyable, which means that the senses are gratified. So for sense gratification. So our platform is still in the material platform, where we want to continue with our sense enjoyment, and then we want to maximize it, which is actually equated to animal propensity. Dharmena hina pashubi samana. So like that, Krishna is talking about himself. And then he also says that I never manifest to the foolish and intelligent, to make it a little more complicated. So for them, I'm covered by my internal potency, and so on and so forth. And then finally, then he concludes that those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So he was trying to bring out that point of trying to satata, niranta, every time you need to know me, so that you will still continue to know me at the time of death. So in this way, the 7th chapter, he is giving some information. Then you look at the 10th chapter, which is titled The Opulence of the Absolute. There again, he talks about himself. And here you have a very detailed description about himself. So I think which you all are aware of. So you know the famous Chatushloki that is there, where Krishna is talking about, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Aham sarvasya prabhuvo mata sarvam pravartate. So that Chatushloki itself is so important for us. So the moment Arjuna hears this Chatushloki, actually he is saying all this because Arjuna requested. And then the last verse of this Chatushloki, which is 10:11, where it says, to show them special mercy, I dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So it is the effort or the mercy put in by the Lord which destroys or which makes us become aware. So he gives us the intelligence. Desham satata yuktana. So in this way, it is the Lord who is present everywhere, and it is the Lord who is giving us the memory. And then Sarvasya Chahamayu in the 15th chapter, it says, Matasmritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. I am the reason for memory as well as for forgetfulness. So in this way, when everything is from the Lord, then we should realize that there is nothing in my hands. And that is how Arjuna rightly concludes in the 10th chapter, in the subsequent verses, where he says he's in ecstasy after he hears all of this, because there is sudden realization, because Krishna is merciful to him and he is making him realize. I mean, in this particular Leela, it is enacted that way, where it says that Arjuna says, Parabrahma Parandhama Pavitram Paramam Bhava Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adi Deva Majam Vibhu. So he says, Arjuna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth, you are eternal, and all of that. And then he says, it is not just my conclusion. Even all the great sages have said that. Asita, Devala, Narada, everybody has said the same thing. Vyasa is also confirming, and you yourself are also declaring it to me now. And then he says that I totally accept you as the truth. But then he says, if you if you can just tell me how the energies are spread, how you pervade this entire world, then it'll be nice, because he wants to hear. Now you know great personality, and then you know what? Then you would want to know here. You want to hear more, and that is natural. What is it like? How did he do it? Oh, really? Oh, he's this, he's that. He is in it, and yet he is not in it. What does that mean? How is that? So your curiosity is kindled, and then you want to know more and more. And then he says, I will never get satiated by all of this. So then Bhagavan Vacha, then the Lord says, and then he says, I am the super soul. There is an entire description of around 30, 40. I mean, you can just count. Among the Adityas, I am Vishnu. I am among light, I am the radiant sun. Among the Maruts, I am Marichi. Among the stars, I am moon. And then he says, among the Vedas, I am Samaveda. Then among the demigods, I am Indra, the king of the heavens. And of the senses, I am the mind. So like this, whatever is the topmost, he's saying, I am that. Of the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, I am the Lord of wealth, that is Kubera. Of the Vasus, I am Agni. And of the mountains, I am Meru. So if you look at how Krishna is relating to all the material manifestations that are there, and then he says, I am that. Of the great sages, I am Bhrigu. Then of the vibrations, sound vibrations, I am Om, the transcendental vibration Om. And then he says, among sacrifices, I am Japa. That means the chanting of the holy name. Among immovable things, I am the Himalayas. So then of the trees, among the trees, I am the banyan tree. So anything great that you see, which is as per our perception, Banyan tree is great, but then great from which angle? From our side, because we have not seen another tree which is bigger than that. So that's okay. So then he says, you think that that is me. So he's trying to, that everything, what is that called? That superlatives. Everything that is superlative is Krishna, and he's beyond the superlative. So that's the right understanding that we need to have. And that is what Sukadev Goswami is trying to bring out here. But then Krishna doesn't stop there. He gives a detailed description. He says, among the weapons, I am Thunderbolt, that is Vajra. Among cows, I am Surabhi. And then among the serpents, I am Vasuki. And then among the serpents, I am Ananta. Means hooded Nagas, I am Ananta. So like that. Among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. So among the dispensers of law, I am Yama. So in this way, I am among the welders of weapon, I am Rama. Among fishes, I am shark. Among flowing rivers, I am Ganges. So, so this way, when we look at Ganges, then we should be able to remember what Krishna has said. And then we should say that, okay, so this is Krishna. So we're trying to link or connect everything to Krishna up to the point of Mrityu Sarva Haraschaham. Krishna says, I am all devouring death also. So I am the generating principle. Among women, I am fame. Not only the tangible things, even the intangible things like fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So among women, that is the qualities that are there in a woman. Among that, I am that fame, I am the fortune, I am fine speech, because women are known for that. I am steadfastness. They have a lot of this thing steady in their whatever they set out to do, and they have a lot of patience. So I'm that. So like that, Krishna is talking about many things which we have experience of, and then he's taking out the best in that, and then he's saying that I am that. Even the so-called supposedly negative things, because material world is dual, good and bad. So there also he doesn't stop. He says, what is that? I'm also the gambling of cheats. I'm the best among the cheats, you know. And then I'm the splendid, and I am the splendor. I'm victory. I'm adventure. I'm the strength of the strong. So in this way, Krishna is talking about many things in the 10th chapter. Even in the 15th chapter, there is some reference to this. But but we'll have to also pay some attention to how he is concluding the 10th chapter. What does he say? He says, what need is there, Arjuna, for you to know all these details? Just be aware that with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. That means, Ekamshena Sthito Jagat. That is all. This entire description that we saw, and much more, everything, that there are many things that are not included here. All of that, the sum total of all of that, and this whole material world, the way we perceive it, it is all created by the energy of the Lord. And that energy of the Lord is not that, oh, he had a tough time trying to do that. It is like a lot of effort went in there, yeah, because it was such a big creation. No, it was not like that. He says, Ekamshena Sthito Jagat. The entire Jagat came into existence by one fragment of my energy. So we are not even talking about Krishna. We are talking about expansion of Krishna. We are not even talking about expansion of Krishna. That is up to the stage of Narayana or Vishnu, because we know Vishnu came from Narayana. And Narayana again came from the second quadruple expansion, that's Sankarshan. And then before that, there was the first quadruple expansion, where again Shankarshan, Vasudeva, Shankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha were there. So like this expansion of the expansion of the expansion of the expansions, small fragment of energy is this material world that we see and perceive. And that also we cannot understand, even if we are given the lifetime equivalent to that of Brahmaji. So this is how we realize that we cannot realize. And it's so huge. And then what happens is, then how do we perceive the Lord if we have so much of negative things stacked against us? So there is a way out there. So what is that way out? So there it says that Krishna says in the 15th chapter, and all these things, when he concludes, where he says that you can still know me by doing devotional service. And then when you do devotional service unto me, by my mercy, with the shining, I mean, I will remove your ignorance, and then you will be able to understand things. So here it is about not my effort, but about the mercy of the Lord. And that has to be understood in its right perspective. So our effort doesn't have so much of value, but though it is needed, but then it doesn't have, it is not the only reason for us to have understood anything. If at all we read something, we put some effort and we understood something to some extent, it is because of the mercy of the Lord. I mean, without knowing all this, we might think, oh, they are just saying. So how will real humility come? When we really understand, when we go into these details. Otherwise, it will be just lip service. We'll just try to say, oh, yeah, it's the mercy of the Lord. Yeah, it is the mercy of the Lord. It is true. We are making that statement. We are speaking that, which is good. But then it is not from the heart still. It is still not realized. We might just repeat it, which is good again. Our acharyas say that at least repeat it, at least say it. And then, but then the realization will happen later on. And realization, how it will happen, for that also we need the mercy of the Lord. So this way, everything is connected to Krishna, and it is just, so much of trouble. I mean, it's so difficult to understand even a fragment of that energy of the Lord. So that from that fragment, how is that one spark of, from the fire, a spark comes off? Is there any loss to the fire? No, the fire continues to blaze, and in all its intensity and in all its prowess. The spark has nothing to do. But that spark itself, so much of things have happened in that, and we are still trying to comprehend it. So then just imagine how that big fire is going to be. So in this way, the opulence of the Lord is very, very difficult to understand. And then leave alone the material world only is, we are struggling to understand so much, which is only 1/4, Prabhupada says in the purport. 3/4 is the spiritual world. Spiritual world, again, we cannot understand. So with the right conclusion, Prabhupada puts in that purport saying that if we are struggling to understand the spiritual world, it is which we can perceive, comprehend with our senses, even though imperfectly, little bit we can know. Still, we cannot get a grasp on it. Then just forget the spiritual world. So, in fact, there is one incident that happened. Srila Prabhupada, actually, he was probably in Japan or something like that. So there he was giving a class to all his disciples. And then he was actually explaining the spiritual world. He was talking about how spiritual world is the concept of time as we know of is not there. That means there is no future, there is no past, there's only present. So, and then he was talking about distance also, how there is no concept of distance. This is far, near. So you think of something, then you are there. So something like that. He was giving an explanation of how the concept of time and distance is not there in the spiritual world. He was giving this explanation. So there was this devotee, Mataji, a lady. So she said, but Swamiji or Prabhupada, that's how they used to call Prabhupada then. He said, Swamiji, I'm not able to understand what you're saying. Then Prabhupada told, I asked you to listen. I did not ask you to understand. So what he was trying to say was, it is not possible for all of us to understand. Just listen. So in this way, even though we may not know, but we just have to listen. So now the pages that will come, the shlokas that will come, there could be many things that we may not understand with respect to the Bhumandala, the flower, the world, the Meru mountain, and how somebody is there are beings that are supporting the four corners and this and that. We may not understand all of it in its entirety. Never mind, we just listen, and then we just depend on the mercy of the Lord, so that to whatever extent he is going to shower his mercy, to that extent I will understand and then move on. So that is all. That is the expectation. So this is one of the best, what do you call, best way to start something. And we know we don't understand, but still we put that effort. But then there are finer details that come out because of this. The finer details or the finer, subtler aspects are the aspect of humility, the aspect of surrender, the aspect of austerity, that is the effort that we take in. These are of prime and not the result, which is whether did I understand or not, and then try to show off that I understood. No, it's not about that. It's about, even after having understood, realizing that there is more to it. Based on my capacity, this is all I can say or I have understood. That is how you will see many of the acharyas when they are talking, they'll say, based on what I have heard, based on what I have read or heard, And then I think there is more to it, but this is what I can say. So, so it is all about humility, and that aspect is being brought out very wonderfully in the shloka before we delve into the actual subject of the creation itself, which is nothing but a small spark of the energy of the Lord, not even the Lord. It is the energy of the Lord, because we know that the energy and the energetic are different. So energy is coming from the energetic. So then, so there is still another gap there which we need to cover to understand the Lord in all his entirety. In fact, I've also heard that who will know the Lord? People who are closest to the Lord. So Radharani is supposed to be very close. But then, or Lakshmi ji. So there it is said that Lakshmi ji, so even though she's been with Narayana continuously for eternity, and she knows him well in and out in the way he thinks and all of that, still she doesn't know more than the tip of the toenail of the Lord. That means she still has a long way to go. So then what about us? So we've seen examples of how Lord Brahmaji didn't know, or he could not comprehend, and then or he rightly comprehended, saying that I cannot understand. And then there is also these Brahmaji's another Leela where mm, when aham is there, when false prestige is there, we get bewildered, and then thereby we lose further track of the Lord, and that is displayed in that particular Leela where Lord Brahma is going to Vaikuntha to meet Narayana. Then the Dwarpalakas are there. Of course, you need to say who has come, and then you're let inside. So then he says, go and tell Narayana that Brahma has come. So the Dwarpalakas go in and then say Brahma has come. Then Krishna says, which Brahma? Or rather, Narayana says, which Brahma? Now they come out and then they say, this is what the Lord is asking. He says, which Brahma? He says, what do you mean, which Brahma? The Brahma, Chaturmukha. So the father of the four Kumaras, I've come, I want to meet. Oh, okay, okay. Then he goes and then say, he just said like this. Oh, that Brahma has come. Okay, send him inside. Then he says, okay, so how are you? The pleasantries are exchanged. And then he says, oh, tell me, Brahma, what makes you, what brings you here? So he wanted to hear. But Brahma is so bewildered. He says, no, no, that can wait. But I have a question for you. What do you mean, which Brahma? I thought I am the only one. Then he gives that vision where there are so many Brahmas who are coming and paying obeisances. Then Brahmaji realizes his position. So like that, the Lord is always an enigma, a question mark. We think we have understood, but then there is lot more to the Lord, which we are not even aware of. So in fact, one of the acharyas in the Madhva Sampradaya, he says, who is God? The definition of God itself is like that, he's saying. He says, that personality who always remains an enigma, who is a question mark. You discuss, you debate, you talk, you dwell on so many things for days together, but still there is one question mark that remains. Maybe it is that, maybe it is not. That enigma is always an enigma. Such a personality is God. Because if you've understood everything, everything means then he's not God. So that's in corollary, So like that, that's why. Then what to talk about these small things like Dvaita, because he is Achintya, Bheda Tattva. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very rightly brought out how it is not worthwhile to debate so much on all these points and then take sides and all of that, because the Lord is Achintya. So we accept the philosophy of Advaita as well as the philosophy of Dvaita and Vishishtadvaita, because the Lord is a sum total of all of it. It is like those paradoxes that exist. The Lord will say, like, can the Lord create a stone which he cannot lift? So the answer is like, thereby it's trying to say that the Lord can't do something. But then the answer was that the Lord can create a stone which he cannot lift, and then he lift it, and then he will lift it also. So that is Lord. So now in our regular logic, that doesn't fit in. So, but then we have to understand then that is Lord. So like this, some little aspects of the Lord we saw today. So in conclusion, we're just trying to say that the greatness of the Lord has to be understood before we look at the sweetness. Even if we don't understand, that is still fine. We just depend on his mercy. And then we have to be aware of the defects that we have, so that even we don't judge or conclude very quickly, and continue that effort, the austerity, and wait for his mercy. So on that note, I'll stop here. 8:10. If in case if there are any comments or questions, go ahead. Otherwise, we can conclude today's session. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for very nice class. Especially the way you explained about how Krishna is explaining. First of all, I think I felt this chapter is too difficult even to comprehend or try to understand, because Krishna is explaining about this, the universal form. And but the point that you expressed about, it's not about trying to understand, but it's about the effort to listen or to read. That is more important than understanding. That point was really inspiring, because even in the devotional service, like studying or reading, I always see the result, whether I can understand or not. But rather than the result, we should just focus on the process of studying or listening. So understanding, it's not in our hands. Krishna will give the understanding based on the effort and our extent of Vaishnava Seva and all. So that was a very, very nice point, Prabhuji. And another aspect you mentioned of how we can see and perceive Krishna in anything and everything. You actually quoted the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, where Krishna is explained, chapter 11, where Krishna is explaining the universal form. Actually, when I was listening to Prabhupada class sometime back, Prabhupada mentions a very simple thing. He was telling that it's very, very easy to remember Krishna in each and every aspect of life. But one aspect he was actually quoting: when you are drinking water, just think of Krishna. That the taste of water is Krishna every time, because drinking water is a very ordinary activity that we do every day, maybe 8 times or 10 times a day. He was mentioning that even if you are thinking of Krishna at that time, that the taste of water is Krishna, then your way back is then you can improve your Krishna consciousness, and that you are making advancement. I think you connected that point very nicely here, Prabhu. Thank you very much. It was a very nice class. Thank you, Prabhu. Devotees can unmute the mic and share your comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very
Hare
nice
Krishna.
you explained above everything what you told about the 42nd sloka of the 10th chapter. He said, with a single fragment, I pervade and support the entire universe. That is amazing, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. Dandavat Pranam.
Actually, it's a big relief for us, actually. So, I didn't understand. There is no anxiety. So, and then depend on Krishna, so that like a kitten, no anxiety, just depend on Krishna. He will take us wherever he wants me to take. But then our effort is also needed. Okay.
Even that statement of Prabhu, everything is in me, but I'm not in everything. That n number of times I feel I don't understand at all that statement. If you can explain once, that would be very nice.
So Mataji, so that's what. So if you see like there, I'm in it, yet I'm not in that, he's trying to say that everything is in me, but I'm not in it. So which means that he's beyond the creation. That is how it is explained there in that verse. So he is the creation, but he is beyond the creation also. So which means that he existed even before creation came, because creation has a starting point and an end point. So, but then he is there in the creation, like this energy is there. But he is beyond that also, because he has to be beyond that, no? Because if he's in the creation only limited to that, then it's like there is a starting point to the creation. So, but then when nothing existed, I existed, it says. When nothing was there, I existed, and then it came about. So that is why he is beyond also. So it's a simple way of understanding it. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams, Prabhu. Thanks for the wonderful class. Just today morning, there was a discussion in Bhagavad Gita class whether we should call ourselves insignificant, because the doubt came because we are part and parcels of the Lord. But now revising what we have been told, we feel so very, 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 very insignificant, Prabhu. Really. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your wonderful class.
Mataji, tell what the Prabhu said. The Prabhu said, we are part and parcel of Mamai Vamso Jivaloke. So we are significant parts of this thing. Why everybody says I'm insignificant, sir? That was the question, Prabhu. Like all of us try to give some answer, but if you can explain to us. Can we tell that we are insignificant?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thanks for the wonderful class. The same thing, Prabhu, instead of insignificant, can we say fallen souls? Which is correct, Prabhu.
See, Mataji, when we think of ourselves as individuals, then we should know that we are insignificant. But we become significant when we are connecting ourselves to Krishna. Because of that connection to Krishna, Prabhupada has handled this subject very nicely. He says, like, it's like a part in a machinery. As long as that part is connected to the machinery, it is very, very important. It might be a small screw. You probably would have heard this in his lectures. But if that screw has fallen off from the machinery, then it is like a screw. I mean, it is in the dust. Nobody cares about it. Like, So as long as it is part of that, then it has value. It has importance. Otherwise, it is still insignificant. So both statements are correct, no? So we can consider ourselves significant with the fact that we are connected to Krishna, and then we are insignificant. We become more insignificant if we detach ourselves to Krishna, which is what how we should perceive everything. So
thank you, Prabhu. Very nicely explained.
Yeah.
Very good. Very nice.
Very good, Prabhu.
So we can take pride in the fact that Mamai Vamsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Yes. But as long as we know that or realize that. But outside world or earlier, we thought we are independent. I am so and so, I am this, I am that. That great people think like that, no? Materially great people. But they are nothing.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think one another aspect that you highlighted was even such a great personality, like Lord Brahma, he realizes that, he doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
So this is actually the, I was wondering when earlier why, there is a need to describe this aspect of the Lord, and I was wondering, but I realized that the fact it is explained is because to bring certain level of humility, so that we understand how skill we are in this creation. When Brahma is feeling like that, then what about normal jivas? So, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for highlighting that point.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So,
maybe we can conclude.
Can end. And thank you very much, Prabhuji, because I know that you have been very, very busy this week by, because you were engaged in the other side of giving IDC classes every day. But despite that, you have, kindly accepted this request. And we thank you very much, Prabhuji, from the bottom of the heart. We'll end today's session with Vaishnava Pranam. Vancha kalpatarubhyas pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जाय, जगतगुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय, Tagore Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna devotees, tomorrow morning we will have class at 8 o'clock. We would be having the association of His Holiness Loknath Swami Maharaj. Will be in our temple. I understand that he is going to be here for the Mangala Arati, right, Prabhu, and he will be with us for chanting. So those who are having time or those who can spare time are requested to come to the temple and chant with Maharaj. And Maharaj will be giving class at the temple from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. I think that a temple management has set the communication. So the class will be live streamed from the temple tomorrow.
Hari Bol. Thank you all so much. So then was pronounced. We can conclude today's session. Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
Prabhu, he is the one who has sung Guru Astakam, Prabhu. This Loknath Swami Maharaj is the same Prabhu.
Mataji is a Kirtaniya. He has sung. Yes, he is a Kirtaniya. He is a renowned Kirtaniya. His Kirtans are amazing. So, I don't know if you're referring to that only, but yes.
Same. Thank you so much.
Prabhu, he is one of the initiating gurus, no, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes.
Okay, so Dandavat Pranams, Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Wishing you all a wonderful day.
Thank you.